They can't stomach a transitional period because they're expected to win all the time, but they are.
We've got such high expectations for the All Blacks.
I think it's a culmination of pressure and then bang, a real blowout.
They're going to come here thinking that they've got a genuine chance to win.
They're a different team in 2025.
And they hit the jackpot!
This is the most excited I've been about a Bledisloe Cup in a very long time.
You know, we never want to lose in anything, especially in rugby.
You can write yourself down in history if you're the Wallaby team to win back this Bledisloe.
Watson gets shoved away. Sama! All Aussies drown! Left-hand counter. Now looking for Dane Cole. Can he make it? You betcha! You betcha! And it goes to Bowman Barrett! Well, it's almost too good to be true. I'm speechless.
Kia ora, Etefano. Thank you so much for joining us on your Thursday night here on Sky Sport. We are ready. We've had a brilliant Rugby Championship. Now, why don't we throw in a little Bledisloe Cup action as well? It is Australia in New Zealand at Eden Park taking on the All Blacks. I've got Morgan Tiranui and Justin Marshall alongside me. And Marshy, we heard your voice there. And this is the most excited. I think a lot of people have been about this competition in a long while. Why are you so excited about this?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Morg's good to see you, champ. Great to have an Australian perspective here. He won't hold back, which is brilliant. But look, what's so good about it is, like for me as a player, I went through that golden era of Australian rugby. Much to harming my All Black record, they were very successful at winning World Cups, and the Bledisloes and the contests that we had were incredible. Let's face it, if you're perfectly honest, it hasn't been the case in recent years. It's been dominant All Black performances. But the way the Australian side under Joe Schmidt has rejuvenated itself, the exciting nature of the way they're playing, they've got a real genuine chance. And that's great for Bledisloe and Australian Anzac rivalry.
We love that. And Morgs, would you say that this is, like in Australia at the moment, is the vibe around the fact that this is Australia's best chance in some time?
It is in Australia. I'm not buying. Everyone's being so nice. Oh, we want Australia to be strong.
Nice.
I hate it. It's just too weird. He's been so nice to me today. There's something wrong about it. But look, we're excited because we're very proud of the way the Wallabies are playing. They haven't been perfect. They have not put an 80-minute performance together. They have not put 2 matches together in a row, and they're not the only ones. But there's something about their rugby that is great to watch. They're very supportable. And so we're excited at the challenge of what Eden Park brings.
It's an interesting one. We look at the Rugby Championship as a whole, and that is what's happening as well as the Bledisloe Cup. They're running at the same time. And if we have a look at the score and where everyone's sitting, it has been the most consistently inconsistent Rugby Championship. Say that 5 times fast after a Chardonnay. But Justin, what do you make of this? I mean, it has been a brilliant Rugby Championship.
Oh, it has been. And look, the Rugby Championship sometimes doesn't sort of fall into place with that, say, the All Blacks back-to-back tests against South Africa, then the Bledisloe Cup, because it's being dominated by a team. And it plays a second sort of part to what else is going on. Here, because everybody's in the contest, and particularly Argentina, how good have they been? They're competitive now, and you would not want to button off. Everybody's in it. And so, yeah, it's the most competitive because every team has had their faults, but they've had their wins as well, which has been brilliant.
When you look at the Rugby Championship as a whole, the team to come out on top, even though maybe not on the scoreboard there, but in terms of the growth of the team, would you say Argentina's got it this year?
Oh, I think probably the Wallabies and Argentina together. Don't forget Argentina, they beat the Lions a few months ago. They're World Cup semi-finalists. They've been excellent, and they've beaten South Africa, New Zealand and Australia over the last 12, 18-month period. So we shouldn't be surprised, even though we are. What's great is they're doing it away from home a bit more as well. That win in Sydney was excellent.
It was huge. If we have a look at the All Blacks on the other hand, it's been a couple of weeks now, so I feel like we can talk about it a little bit more. What happened in Wellington against South Africa? It was tough. I've never seen a performance like that by an All Blacks team. I don't think anyone had. We're quite surprised. Came away from that really surprised after what we saw at Eden Park. Yep. So how dangerous does that make them?
Well, it makes them dangerous because you'll always have blood in the water when it comes to the All Blacks when a performance like that is so heavily critiqued, not only by them but by the entire country. And we saw the points table. It was incredibly harmful to their Rugby Championship campaign as well because they suffered such a big defeat. Then it's put their points differential and, way down the list. That's why they're sitting 3rd. And so to win it, they're going to have to produce some really good performances. Look, fallout is never easy. It creates doubt, it affects confidence. But the one thing that the All Blacks can do, and that's historic, is bounce back with a big punch. And big punches usually come from the All Blacks at Eden Park.
They certainly do. Morgs, would you mind talking us through that Australian team? And that's been announced and a couple of changes.
Yeah, there's been a few, lots of them enforced by injury, of course, but up front, it's a momentous occasion. James Slipper plays his 150th test with Billy Pollard, and Tony Latupo there at scrum time to shore that up. At lock is big change. Frost's back in, and Lucan Salakai-Loto to add that robustness we need in the locking position. Then Hooper, McWright and Wilson, as expected, in the absence of Rob Valentini, in a back row that's quite settled. Tate McDermott gets his chance to start with Nick White finally properly retired, and James O'Connor is, of course, the story. There to start at 10 in New Zealand in a Wallaby jersey. There's our go-to men. Ikitau and Suali'i back together in the midfield. And in the back three, you've got Corey Toole and Harry Potter together. He comes back in, Potter, from injury, and Max Jorgensen gets his first start in a Wallaby jersey at fullback. On the bench, there's a few changes. Lonigan gets his chance, Ryan Lonigan from the Brumbies, to make his test debut. Edmed drops back to the bench. Good to see him still in the 23.
Do you think Joe Schmidt's had some sleepless nights picking this team? Obviously, he hasn't had all the people he would like at his disposal, but what does that team say to you?
I think James O'Connor is the huge one, really. He wants a guy who's not going to necessarily win the game for him, but what he just wants is someone settled and experienced to have a low error rate and lead the team around the park, and that's what he's seen in James O'Connor enough. You know, lots of guys out injured, perhaps not his first choice when he thought he was coming into the Rugby Championship, Justin, but James O'Connor may be the safe pair of hands.
Yeah, not only do I like the composure and the experience you're talking about, he's been there and done that, James O'Connor, but equally the fact that he spent a year in and around New Zealand rugby at the Crusaders, so he got a feel for what our defence is like, the way that we defend in this country. So his ability then as a first receiver to adapt and adjust, knowing what type of line speed is coming at him and what type of defence. Not so much blitz, a little bit of drift involved, and then he can sort of pull the trigger on unleashing that powerful midfield. And what I also like is the selection of Tate McDermott. Obviously, with Nick White retiring, as you said, properly now. Yeah. You know, him coming in with his attacking game, his ability to take on pillar defenders, his ambition to play, I really like that. But why has he not been selected consistently by Joe Schmidt?
I think perhaps he's a victim of how effective he is off the bench, coming on against tired defenders. When the Wallabies beat England at Twickenham, he was crucial coming off the bench a couple of times there. In the Lions series, sometimes he was on the wing and at halfback. He was excellent. And then once again, against the Springboks, just when there's a little bit of fatigue in the game, that's where he's been effective. He wants to be the Wallaby starting nine leading into 2027, and he gets his chance now.
You talk about fatigue with the Wallabies. Well, their best half is the second half. So is this the team potentially? We know the All Blacks, their second half has left a little bit to be desired. So is this really, if you look at the way it's balanced, does this make them more dangerous at Eden Park against the All Blacks?
I just think that their ambition to play, if they want to play and go full frontal attack, then they are a dangerous side, and they've got really, really good ability off the bench. If they've got themselves into the position of being in the game, Morgs, they can't afford to be shut out by the All Blacks and then try to play catch-up, like they've done in a few test matches this year. Look, they couldn't do it against Argentina, they did it against South Africa, but at Eden Park against the All Blacks, they can't afford to let those points be against them in the first half. Really interesting for me is engine room. Like, I bang this drum about physicality and fronting up front. New locks as well being selected. You like them?
I think so. I think Lucan Salakai-Loto is the replacement that we have for Will Skelton, the irreplaceable Will Skelton. A lot of people calling for his selection for a couple of weeks now. Was impressive in a couple of tour matches against the Lions. And I think the combination of Frost and Skelton has been so important that Salakai-Loto can do that for Frost. He's had his best year in a Wallaby jersey. He's great at line-out time and he's been good around the park. That's as good a locking pair and a balanced locking pair as the Wallabies have at the moment.
All right, so watch out for them on Saturday night. Justin Marshall, would you please talk us through this All Blacks team list announced today?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of interest in this side that Scott Robertson was going to name. De Groot and Lomax have Cody Taylor and all his experience coming back at hooker after his HIA recovery. No Scott Barrett, the captain, is out with a shoulder injury, so Fabian Holland fills the void alongside Tupu Vai. The back row is unchanged, apart from the fact that Adi Savia will wear the captaincy armband alongside Parker and Wallace Satiti at number 8. Cam Roygaard is back in the 9 jersey after a successful return in the NPC alongside Beauden Barrett. The midfield stays the same. Absolutely no intention to change that. They've gone for combination in Barrett and Proctor. And a shift around in the back 3. Carter moves to the right wing. Caleb Clark starts his first test in a long time on the left wing. And Will Jordan shifts back to fullback. And in the reserves, real interest obviously in the inclusion of Peter Larkai in jersey 20, the rest of them quite regular, and a return from Cortez Ratuma from injury. Well, we got the opportunity to catch up with Scott Hansen. TJ spoke to him after the team announcement. This is what he had to say.
Few changes and some good news too, because you get Cameron Roigard and also Cortez Ratana back. How much of a boost is that to the team?
Great to have him back. What he gives the group is good energy. He's a threat around the ruck and the like. Finley Christie's done a great job for us, but for this test in this moment, we're looking at obviously Cam and Tez to come in and give us their energy.
And Cam Roigard.
Bit of a shuffle in the back three. You've got Caleb Clark coming into the side. Leroy Carter switches to right wing. Will Jordan at fullback. What was the thinking there?
Oh, Caleb again was always in the squad, just come back through his injury, played 2 games for Auckland and played well on the weekends. What he offers us is test match experience, explosiveness. He wins the air on the left edge, and Leroy Carter on the right edge is where he normally plays. Decisive was a really good test match for him. He gives us great energy, gets us going forward, so we want to continue that.
He's in for the try.
How much of a focus has there been this week on the high ball?
We've looked at the reality of where we are and what we can do to clean that up. There's been some good conversations and clips regarding it. We've prepared well this week for it. Be good to win a couple this weekend for sure.
There was a bit of stress at set piece in Wellington, which is unusual for this team, but you get Cody Taylor back, his leadership. I imagine that's really important to the team.
Yeah, it is. Cody's a seasoned professional around that role. You look at the set piece around what it gives you around possession, territory. We didn't get it right against South Africa this week against the Wallabies. We have to, and that's the challenge to the fullback around being better there. And that's been a clear focus for us this week. Cody will help that process.
Taylor at the back, patient, and Taylor gets the try.
There's a fair bit riding on this one, isn't there? Obviously, the need to bounce back from what happened in Wellington. You've got the Bledisloe Cup on the line. It's Eden Park. So just what's the feeling amongst the team as you prepare for this match?
Yeah, we've had a good week. The leaders have grabbed the team like they always do. I think the opportunity and the challenge should be exciting for the group. There's noise around the group, but it's fair noise around our last performance. We've got to own it. We've got to own a performance we can be proud of at Eden Park. It's a massive opportunity, Bledisloe. It's a really well-galvanised Wallaby team we're playing. They're battle-hardened, we know that. It'll be an 80-minute performance from them. They're resilient, the way they're focused in the breakdown and the like, with some good challenges for our game too. So we are looking forward to it. Massive opportunity for us to be better.
Yes, plenty on the line. A big opportunity for Ardie Savea as captain. Scott Barrett sits out with a shoulder injury. But having Cody Taylor back, a cool head, a calm head, to have him back in the mixer, despite what he can do on the field, in terms of seniority, when you lose your captain, how important is that for the side?
It's really important, and that's absolutely not detrimental to Samisoni Taukei'aho, who I thought filled that void really, really well and played well. But when you take a guy like Scott Barrett out of the mix and you bring in a 100-test All Black, with his experience, his drive, his competitiveness, like Cody Taylor is a genuine battler for every inch, for everything he does on the rugby field, whether it's at set piece or whether it's around the field. And I think bringing him in when you lose someone like Scott Barrett into that tight 5 in terms of leadership and what he can offer, his timing couldn't have been better to get him back, because, you know, you need that. And Scott Hansen spoke about it, didn't he? Leaders are leading the team. They've had a bit to say.
Yeah, just quickly, I thought when Sam Cane retired, I thought Cody Taylor, he was my pick to be the captain. I've just been a fan for such a long time, and I think the Scott Robertson All Blacks, that's the kind of player you want as a leader. He does the hard work, the unseen things, but he's also got the soft skills to express himself afterwards, and I just think such a big in for the All Blacks this week.
You talk about good timing. Cam Roigard back in the mixer, and he had his go at NPC, came on, made an impact straight away. So to have him back, and no disrespect to Finley Christie, he's done a great job in the interim, but to have him back at such a crucial time, how big is this for the All Blacks?
Oh, it's big, and I totally agree. Finley Christie did a brilliant job, as did Cortez Ratana. I think they got in a situation where both of them have been missing. Like Cam Roigard's got nowhere near as many minutes as Cortez Ratana, but Cortez has been out as well since that Argentinian test. So they kind of went, OK, both of them are going to be having problems with their lungs, you know, at certain stages. So who are we better to start with? Who's going to offer us something a little bit different on attack than what we've seen? And Cam Roigard offers that. Kicking strategy as well. It's got a slightly different kicking game than Cortez Ratana. And we know how good he is around the ruck in terms of defence and his ability to take on pillar defender. Like that battle with Tate McDermott, Roigard and Tate McDermott, that's a good one because they are such similar players in my mind.
Yeah, and if they go toe to toe like that, I can see them playing 50 tests against each other. They could be the Marshall Gregan of this era that's coming because of their age. I think Roigard's going to play 75 tests for the All Blacks. I think Razor knows he's the one, and you build the other nines around. You've got 2 nines back, Tuipulotu back, Taylor back. There's some big ins in the squad, and Caleb Clark getting a start as well now that he's had some runs.
Well, that's the other point, isn't it? Caleb Clark is back, and Scott Hansen mentioned it again. It's another thing that he said about what we need to control the air. There's been a lot of chat about it, and that's the problem for them. There's been so much chat that they haven't commanded the air. They didn't against the French. They struggled against Argentina, and they struggled against South Africa. So it's become a real talking point for the All Blacks, and it's meant changing around in the back three, moving Will Jordan. Injuries have come in. Now Caleb Clark comes back in, who I think is probably one of our best wingers in the country in the air. What do you make of that selection, and what have you made of this whole thing with the aerial problems the All Blacks have encountered?
Well, I think it's the theme of the Rugby Championship, truthfully, because Argentina dominated Australia in the air. That's how they got their lead in Townsville. That's also a little bit how they won the game in Sydney. I think if you dominate the air in the Rugby Championship, you win the game. Clark fills me with fear. He absolutely dominated the Wallabies in Wellington last time they played the Bledisloe there. We know he can break tackles. I love his work ethic as well now. Just a mature international player. The Wallabies have picked Harry Potter, who they think is their best player in the air, but the battle of the air suddenly is important in international rugby.
I love that, eh? He's filled with fear.
When you said that, I just fell off the chair. I thought this was great.
Less fear than if I was running out in the field, that's for sure.
Well, there has been some great battles within the Bledisloe Cup. Let's revisit some of the best.
The Bledisloe Cup, first played for in 1931, a symbol of rugby supremacy between New Zealand and Australia.
How did this happen? The fans are piling up now, bodies all over the place.
What a player, John Eales. You betcha, Jonathan. Now Marshall into the game. It's all over. Joe Roccafoco. Summo, what a try! There he goes, the big hooker. Oh, he's done it again.
And back it goes to Bowden Barrett. Oh, John, he has got a double. And Barrett wins it for New Zealand. The crowd's gone crazy. Insane stuff.
There's been some great battles, and even as a fan, like some of my best times watching with the family were Bledisloe Cup games. John Eales, I won't go there now, but there's a couple that flood back when you talk about a Bledisloe Cup. But as a player, what makes this rivalry so special and this Bledisloe Cup?
I think it's that Anzac thing, for us playing against Australia in any sport is important to us. We kind of obviously see them kind of as the big brother, so we're the little brother coming in to have a real go at them. And the Bledisloe Cup has been something that historically we've fought over, that rugby is adopted as being kind of the pinnacle in the game between the two countries, and that's very obvious, isn't it? We've had World Cups against each other and those types of games, but the Bledisloe Cup, you talk to any All Black, or including the current All Blacks, and they'll always say it's the most coveted trophy. Now look, World Cup, yes, more modern. But keeping that Bledisloe Cup or having that Bledisloe Cup is the most important. It's just there. It's just part of us.
Morgs, is that the same for the Wallabies?
I think possibly even more so. I think because it is the ultimate stamp of approval. And it hurts me to say this, but when you play against New Zealand, there's a reason that the results aren't always going Australia, because you're playing such a great team, no matter where it is. And so if you win the Bledisloe, if you can win a series in a calendar year against New Zealand, it's a stamp of approval that you are world-class as a Wallaby team. We don't win it often. That's the opportunity for these guys. And then it takes an amazing individual or collective effort to take that cup off New Zealand.
Well, let's revisit some of your favourite Bledisloe moments. And Morgs, we'll start with you. Which one was yours?
I had to pull out 94. I was, 12 years of age. It was in my hometown of Sydney, and we were going to lose a test match at the death. We started really well. David Knox, one of my heroes from the same club as me, Randwick, puts one up high. Jason Little goes through and scores a great try. There's the aerial battle, Marshy. And then New Zealand are going to win at the death. It's 20-16. A try is going to be scored, and then George Gregan, I'm not sure who dropped it there, but George Gregan saved the Wallabies. And I am absolutely convinced that that is the beginning of it all. George Gregan saves the Wallabies there. We win a World Cup in '99. Eales' penalty goal, Kefu's try. It's all from that hot ball from someone that we
It's a
don't know,
catalyst
Marsh. Exactly,
to
that's
the
it.
future.
We'll clip this off and, and send it on to Jeff.
Unfortunately, it's live. We can't.
Marsha, talk to us about your favourite moment.
Yeah, look, I was very privileged to play in the game of the century in 2000 and to be involved in that, in a classic game where both teams entered into this game with a positive attitude of attack. And look, we got away to a fantastic start. Tana Umaga scoring early. We went out to a 21-point lead. But as you expect, I just spoke about that Anzac rivalry. Australia are always going to bounce back, which they did. They stayed in the fight, they stayed in the game. And obviously then it went right down to the wire where we were trying to win it desperately in the dying moments. And hey, if you want to have somebody to be able to enable you to do that, why not call on Jonah? But just a great game to be involved in. And I have to say, I spoke to my great adversary and mate, George Gregan, in the changing rooms after that game, sat down next to him, we're having a beer. Obviously our changing room's 52 beers filled up with the Bledisloe Cup, but no offence. And I said to him, mate, I mean this honestly and wholeheartedly. If we had lost that test match, I still would have felt that I was involved in one of the best rugby games you could ever put the boots on for. And he said, mate, yeah. He said, I've just lost, but what a game. And he said, that's what rugby's all about, isn't it? Put our arms around each other and had a can and went, you know what? Love rugby. Love Anzacs, love the Bledisloe Cup.
That is very, very cool.
That was nearly my moment too. Like, that was nearly mine because it was such a big game.
And it's very exciting for Saturday. What's to come on Saturday? So it has been 39 years since the Wallabies last won at Eden Park. 1986. Let's revisit it.
Well, the scene is certainly set here for the grand finale of the 1986 Test Series between New Zealand and Australia. A capacity house here and an excellent day for rugby.
And there's a message that is self-explanatory to Alan Jones.
Far Jones to line up. Papworth. Oh, Brett Papworth. Slack. In front of Leeds. Still going though, Leeds. And yes! Marvellous kick from Michael Lineup.
I think the writing is on the wall.
But here's Far Jones. Chance here for Campese. And goodbye to the Bledisloe Cup.
They took their chances.
Australia have won the Bledisloe Cup, and deservedly so.
$52 cans, so Justin Marshall tells us. If we have a look here at the Wallabies' woes here in Aotearoa, I mean, it's not pretty reading, but maybe it is. The All Blacks are just that good, Morgs. And at Eden Park, I mean, it's a tough place to play. South Africa just found that out. So how are the Wallabies dealing with that?
Well, it sounds slightly less humble when you say it than when I say it. But look, I just think that you come here and you're playing the best team, one of the best teams in the history of sport, not just our sport. And that's why that record is there. It's just, you're playing on home soil. And I think the hyper-focus that we see from All Blacks team is the fear of losing at Eden Park, the fear of losing the Bledisloe, and maybe now the fear of being poorly performed 2 weeks in a row. All of those things stack up against the Wallabies unless they can be in the fight late, and then maybe that pressure goes on to the All Blacks at the end, and maybe that's where they can get something.
Well, you mentioned at the start of the show that we were being nice, but we threw that basically at the end of the show. Just
little jab there at the end.
You know what?
You're welcome.
You guys don't win here very often, and anyway, in your face. But no, yeah, look, I agree with you. Look, I just feel that for this game, the Wallabies need to be in the fight at half-time.
Yep.
Like, they can't allow the All Blacks to get a good start and get away on them. If they are, man, we're all in for an awesome night. We really are.
And I think we will be in for a great night.
Yeah, look, the Wallabies won't die wondering, and they've got play in them. They're going to have a 20-minute period at some stage where they're going to be good.
Well, no one's going to die wondering. I love hearing that. It's very exciting. Morgs is filled with fear, which is more exciting if you're an All Blacks fan, maybe not if you're a Wallabies fan, but we are in for a great afternoon of footy. Thank you so much for joining us here on Sky Sport. Marshy, we've got this, right?
We've got this.
We've got this. We've got this. You'll be right. You'll be right. Thank you for joining us. Good luck. You guys have a fabulous night. We'll see you on Saturday. We've got you covered here on Sky Sport. Don't miss a thing. It's going to be fantastic. Bledisloe Cup at Eden Park. It doesn't come much bigger than that. We'll see you next time.